Welcome back over yonder. I am Hunter. There are a lot of tools, guns, and gear we need to practice the sport of cowboy action shooting. But of all things,
we just need money.
In order to compete, you need ammo. In order to practice, you need ammo. And let me tell you, it can get expensive. Let's take a look at shooting just a single stage.
Stand by.
Roughly $23 gone in just 33 seconds. And if I get good enough, I can make it disappear in sub 20 seconds, but we're not quite there yet. And so mind you, there are 6 total stages, which means in a day, you are shooting about $138 worth of lead. Now this is only assuming that you are buying your ammo off the shelf each time, which as of today, and for the caliber I shoot, which is .45 long Colt, is just not sustainable. As of February 2025, a single box of .45 long Colt costs about 50 bucks, which comes to roughly $1 per bullet. Now you may be thinking, this is a ridiculous amount of money to be sending downrange, which it is. And so most in the hobby must also become a master of reloading or reusing your spent ammo. This can reduce the cost of shooting a match to a third or even a fourth of the off-the-shelf price, turning this roughly $1 bullet into a roughly 25-cent bullet. And so, in order to reload, in addition to the cost of all the previously mentioned tools, guns, and gear, you would need to invest in a reloading press. The particular one that I use is a Lee Precision 4-hole turret press. It's a fancy way of saying it just does 4 jobs in one. Now I'm not going to get into extreme detail of reloading because there are just so many different calibers and brands, so every setup will be just a little bit different. We are going to go over just the general process and concepts of reloading. It goes without saying that reloading can be very dangerous and even deadly. Always wear safety glasses and make sure to follow proper safety procedures. There are 4 main components to a bullet, the first of which we need is powder. Not black powder, although some people use black powder, but that's a whole other process. We need smokeless powder. The smokeless powder gets poured into a reservoir which connects to a dispenser on one of the 4 holes on the turret. The next component we need is a spent but clean brass casing. The next component are the primers. .45 long Colt requires a large pistol primer, and there's distinctions between large and small. They need to be loaded into a hopper that sits on the front of the press. It's important to have them all facing the right direction. This can be done by shaking the hopper back and forth lightly until they all flip like this. Close and set the tab to lock. Insert the hopper and set the tab to on for the primers to feed into the dispenser. On every couple of casings, I put on some of this resizing lube to help on the first die on the turret called the resizing die. This die actually does 2 things for us. It punches out the used primer on the bottom and it resizes the full length of the casing. This is fairly easy to do with straight walled cases like this. Next, we load a primer into the primer arm. Something that I do on my cases is clean out the residue left behind from the spent primer. I use this tool to scrape it out. If enough residue is built up, then the next primer that goes in won't be seated flush into the hole. You can see the difference between the two. Is this super necessary? Probably not, but it helps keep things consistent. The new primer is inserted and looks flush, as you can see here. The next dye is the powder through expanding dye. This also does two jobs for us. It dispenses the powder and expands the rim of the case. The next component is the lead bullet itself. And you can see here how far down this bullet actually sits in the casing. Some of you may be wondering, what is this red line on the bullet? This red ring of wax is actually bullet lube. It helps lube the bullet as it travels out the barrel and helps reduce the amount of leading it leaves behind. Next, we place the bullet on top and send it into the third dye, which is the bullet seating dye. This dye is calibrated to push the bullet down the casing to a specific depth. The next dye is the crimping dye. This crimps that rim we expanded around the lead bullet. And there we have it, a fully reloaded .45 long Colt bullet. Something you can do to check the dimensions of the bullet you just made is to drop it into this chamber gauge. If the bullet can fit into this gauge, then it can fit into the chamber of your rifle or pistol. So if you do this whole process 99 more times, you'll have enough to shoot a whole match. Now, for someone just getting into reloading, this may seem a little overwhelming. There is a lot of calibrating, measuring, checking, rechecking that's involved, but there are endless resources and literature on reloading that is available. And with enough practice, you could easily make one or even a couple hundred rounds in just an hour and save yourself hundreds, if not thousands of dollars in the future, depending on how much you shoot. Well, thank you all for stopping in. I have some more matches coming up, so I'm going to get back to some reloading.